There's a lot of potential for disputes in the workplace with the COVID-19 pandemic and the return to work, and issues arising about vaccination, issues arising about wearing the mask, about the return to work protocol and recommendations from the Department of Health or HSE or both. The question of vaccination is an important one for many people, and it brings with it a conflict of rights, a conflict between a person's right to bodily integrity versus somebody else's right to protection in, for example, the workplace, and the employer's obligation then under statute and under common law to provide a safe place of work and so on, and to discharge a duty of care and a standard of care. So there's a lot of conflict or conflicting rights. Everybody has a right, everybody has an obligation, but rights generally are not unqualified. Rights can be qualified in the public interest. The question of vaccination in the workplace and mandatory vaccination in the workplace is one that is raised from time to time, but the legal position, quite frankly, is clear. At the moment anyway, mandatory vaccination in the workplace for employees is a non-runner. An employer will not be able to force or compel an employee to be vaccinated. There's further consideration and a further strand to the whole complexity, and that is the data protection or data privacy or GDPR angle. And that is, would the employer even be entitled to ask or indeed find out whether an employee was vaccinated or not? It's arguable, depending I suppose on the particular job and so on, whether the employer is entitled to that information or not. It is arguable that he's not entitled to even ask, because that's private information, it's private data, and the basis for finding out, I suppose, is something that will depend on the particular circumstances. I'm sure there is particular jobs where an employer would be very concerned that employees would be vaccinated. However, there will be situations where there will be a resistance to vaccination on medical grounds, on principled constitutional grounds, on grounds perhaps of religion and so on, which might give rise. But from a legal perspective, there's no mandatory vaccination in the Irish workplace. Disputes may arise, as I say, and the employers are going to need to be careful in dealing with any disputes that arise, because they could leave themselves open to claims for unfair dismissal or discrimination if they were unfairly disciplining employees about the vaccination and about perhaps not being vaccinated and so on. The question of an employer needs to look at is whether they could, for example, perhaps accommodate an employee working from home or not working in the workplace on the grounds that other employees might be arguing that they are being unnecessarily compromised and that their health and welfare is not being considered, and they may be reluctant to work with somebody who is not vaccinated. It may well be the case that an employer has alternative work that will allow him or her to move the employee to that suitable work away perhaps from a vaccinated workforce. It may well be the case that an employer may well be able to have the employee working from home. But there's very, very many cases, especially for small employers, where the job is the job. And if you consider, for example, a chef or a baker or somebody perhaps doing hair or nails, personal services, jobs, roles that require the employee to be in the workplace, dealing with the general public, providing a service to the general public, cooking food in the kitchen, in a hotel or whatever. Those situations are situations where the employee is simply not going to be able to perform any job from home. A chef cannot work from home, and likewise with many, many other professions, many other jobs. So these are the difficulties that will arise. Everybody is very aware of their rights and entitlements and so on. People have obligations as well. There is a massive, complex balancing act, I believe, between employer and employee and various other actors in the whole situation, which will give rise, I believe, to situations where there's no clear answers. And it may well be the case that an employer or an employee, in order to find out exactly what the position is, may end up bringing a case to the WRC for discrimination or for unfair dismissal or for whatever, and at least that way there may be some clarity thrown on the issue or issues that are likely to arise. But I know from personal experience, I've had a lot of queries about not so much vaccination, but certainly about wearing of masks, about medical exemptions and so on, and I can see it arising then as well when people move back to work in greater numbers and the vaccination rollout is rolled out across the population, and perhaps there will be a small number of people who, for one reason or another, won't get vaccinated. And as I say, there may well be disputes and resentments in the workplace as a consequence. But the message from this video is that mandatory vaccination is not a thing. It is not the position in Irish law. An employer cannot compel an employee to be vaccinated. But aside from that black and white sort of statement, there is plenty of other issues, problems that will require a great degree of consideration and not so much black and white thinking, but a lot of grey thinking, quite frankly. But sooner or later, a lot of these issues probably will come to be determined by either the WRC or in court, and it'll be interesting to see a growing body, I suppose, of decisions in this whole area. But one thing is for sure, it's not straightforward, it's not simple, and employers need to be careful that they are not leaving themselves open to unfair dismissal claims or discrimination claims arising from unfair or heavy-handed implementation of disciplinary procedures or directions or policies or recommendations from government, which may or may not be or have the status of legal mandate, as it were, as opposed to just being a recommendation. Anyway, hope you find this video useful. I'd appreciate if you did that you give it a thumbs up down below, and thanks for watching.